Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Because Football Podcast. This is your host, Andrew. We're back with another fantastic installment of the Icarus Cup Series. We've got Women Plus Soccer Detroit, calling to us from Detroit, of course. We've got Angela, Nikki, Sam, and Monica. Welcome to you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like we were saying, we've got a crowd. It's a party here. 4 guests and a host. Like, this is going to be amazing. I want to hear from all of you. This is the way we start all of our podcast episodes. I love it as a way to get to know our guests. What's your earliest memory of the game of soccer?
I'll begin. I think I'm the oldest one here. My earliest memory is actually when I was in middle school. I didn't have access to rec soccer as a young child. So in middle school, I saw my friends starting to play and it looked so fun. And so I decided I wanted to play, and I started joined the school team, and I just loved it. And then I was inspired by the 99ers, the women's team. So that really was my first exposure to outside soccer besides my friends and the rec leagues that were happening in my community.
In first grade, I was on a team called the Blue Jays. That was really fun. I didn't really know anything about soccer culture, didn't watch any women's soccer on TV, didn't know about it. But luckily, soccer was one of the few sports that was available in my community. And so my parents signed me up, and here we are. So really happy to have started it.
Yeah, so I played a little bit as like a tiny kid, but I don't really remember that. I actually just started playing really in the last couple of years. Joined a local league here as a free agent, and met Nikki, started coming to Women Plus, and
I forgot that's how we met. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, so I kind of started with Women Plus.
Yeah. Wow.
Love it.
Awesome. Cool. How about you, Monica?
I grew up watching my dad play really often. So it's like the community park, and they would just set up shoes, and that's kind of how they would play, or they would move garbage cans. And the community would come out, and like families would come out and hang out. And so I grew up watching my dad play a lot. And in elementary, I started playing at school, and then got into travel, and then got into coaching. And then, my family owned the club for a really long time.
Awesome. So we've got, a lot of different stories and journeys here within the game, and now all comes to today where you all meet here. Tell us a little bit about Women Plus Soccer Detroit. How did you all get started, and what is it that brought you all together?
So I'm really involved in the co-ed community in Detroit. We have a league here called Detroit City Football League, which is a part of Detroit City Football Club. So I started playing there when I moved here in 2015, so really just deep into that community on the boards and things, so know a lot of folks. And I was approached one day by one of the co-founders, and they asked me, hey, do you want to start a women's soccer org? And I was really excited about it because shout out to Maura, one of the OG women's soccer pickups in Detroit was actually started by one of our friends, Maura, in I think maybe 2021. And I was a part of that, and it really made me miss women's soccer. I had forgotten what it was like to play with women and non-binary folks, and it reminded me a lot of like high school. We did like our little dynamic warm-up together at the beginning. It's just stuff that isn't present in co-ed soccer. And so flash forward maybe a couple years when someone asked me, hey, do you want to, make a women's org? At that time, the other org had just kind of fell apart. Not for, any drama or anything, but it just kind of wasn't running anymore. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And that was at the peak of like all the connections that I had in the community. So I was able to get a bunch of folks to our first pickup. Within a couple of weeks, we had like a name, like a logo, and we're like, we're going to make this happen. And Angela, who's always been a part of the women's soccer community in Detroit, was there at our first couple of pickups. A number of folks that still come today. You'll see early on our Instagram, maybe like 12 folks that came to those first 2 pickups when we were just trying to get things together. But ever since then, in March 2023, we've been having weekly pickups, if not 2 pickups a week. And I think the coolest part is we started in March in 2023, and we were just looking for something else to do. Like, we were doing pickup, but we wanted something else. And one of our folks had found Icarus Cup. I'm like, how crazy would it be if we went to a tournament? And none of us had actually played in a game together before.
Right, yeah.
We were just playing pickup. So we said, let's do it. We got a group of folks in and everyone was very excited about it. And Icarus Cup was actually our first kind of activity that we did as a group. And I'm really thankful that it was, because it was such a good experience, is why we keep going back year to year. This was our first year's jersey.
Whoever is able to watch this episode, we've got all the kits out here, right? We've got a great display of Icarus Cup kits on display here. So, all right, so that one, I like that one. The was the sponsor, was it Killavilla, is that on the front?
Yeah.
Great font too. Yeah, amazing that Nikki's got. Incredible. So if I back you up a little bit here, I mean, first of all, it's amazing that in what we're just kind of hit that 2-year anniversary. It's so cool to hear that the Icarus Cup was kind of the first competitive piece, like the catalyst, you know, that you had been getting together just to play pickup and really just be together. But before we get into that story and that piece with the Icarus Cup part, you mentioned a little bit of like the current Detroit soccer scene, you know, in your answer there, Nikki. But the word community is becoming this like buzzword that's used in all different kind of contexts and senses. But it really seems like what Women Plus Soccer is doing in Detroit is giving a community to many other people who might not feel fully themselves or fully like there is a place for them in the context of soccer. So what does that community piece really mean to you?
I think it would be really helpful. I think everyone here has like something really special to share about the Women Plus community. Not to throw you guys on the spot. Money, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think more I can touch on like being new to Detroit, moving to a new state, looking for community is really hard. And as an adult where you're not always surrounded, and I work from home, so it's like at all times I'm by myself. And so finding Women Plus was actually a really great place to make friends, to get to know the local area, to get to know what's going on in Detroit. I've actually made some really amazing friends. We hang out all the time outside of soccer. We also go to support local soccer consistently together. And it's been really amazing to just have folks to meet up with weekly, even if I'm not able to see them as coworkers, or, you know, when you're in college, you see people so consistently. This has been a place where now we're already all the time, and we know we're going to see each other on Monday at soccer. So it's been really amazing, just a way to find community for sure. And some of my best friends, we were just at a birthday last night of someone that just moved here. Yeah. And that we all met through W Plus as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Monica.
So when I started playing, I had just moved to Detroit less than a year prior, and I had also just adopted my kid. And so I had a newborn, and I kind of desperately needed to find people to hang out with. Joined a soccer team in DCFL, like Nikki was mentioning, and it was, I'm non-binary, and it was a weird experience being in a co-ed league that had some like pretty rigid rules about gender, and met Nikki, and she mentioned Women Plus Soccer, and I was like, that sounds dope, and started coming to pickup. I mean, like, y'all are kind of my best friends. Like, really. And like, yeah, like, this is how I started meeting people and like hanging out with people outside of my immediate family. And my kid came to pick up when they were a newborn, just in the car seat. So
awesome. Love that. And Angela, it sounds like you were there towards the beginning of W Plus as well. So what has it been like to help kind of facilitate and be a part of this community and see it now, what it is 2 years on?
It's so cool to see how much it has blossomed in this community that we have, this love, this shared love of soccer. And it's not just about soccer. It's about building each other up and helping each other. And it's so encouraging and positive. And that's why I stay, because we can all help each other to grow in our game of soccer, but also to grow as people and to care about each other and to care about this community that we've built together. So it's so fun and positive. So that's what keeps me coming back.
So awesome. Now let's talk a little bit about the wider Detroit soccer community here before we get into, you know, the Icarus Cup Philly and Icarus Cup Austin that you're going to be a part of as well. Because, you know, you mentioned like Detroit City Football League based by the club. And I know that, for any of the soccer hipster purists of us out there, like that's a club that's always coming up on people's radar, now in USL Championship, but has been around for a bit. So could you tell the country, tell anybody listening that might not be familiar with, hey, what does Detroit have going on in terms of soccer, kind of what the culture is like out there for you all?
It honestly feels like everyone plays soccer.
Yeah.
I can be at the gym, at the grocery store, just generally in public, and I'm likely going to see another soccer player there.
Yes.
We have so many group chats. The co-ed community through DCFL, we have a bunch of different teams. Each one kind of represents a neighborhood in Detroit. So we have like a Woodbridge, Mexican Town, West Side, and Midtown, Green Acres. There's so many teams, and they all more or less get along. Like there's different teams that are really close to each other, and we kind of, in collaboration with Women Plus, because we're also a part of the co-ed community, we kind of do everything together.
Yes.
I think that's like our friends.
Yeah.
We organize pickups together, go to parties. It's pretty much, I think it's all of our social scene.
It's so social, and we support local establishments in the community after the games, go to different places, and then we're always like, I played against you. What neighborhood do you play for? What team? So it's so fun. We have this common bond that really brings us together in the greater Detroit community.
Yeah, and we do community service together.
Yes.
In the summer, that's one of the requirements of one of the leagues that we play in. But also the community is so just connected and cares so much about each other that, for example, this winter in Southwest Detroit, there was a really big flood, and it impacted a lot of people's houses. Like in the middle of winter, people were flooded out of their houses. And Mexican Town and maybe another team organized across all the group chats, across the field house, which is where we play, kind of grassroots donations to support the folks who were kind of misplaced and impacted by that flood. So yeah, end-to-end pretty solid community.
Community came out and supported.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's a great example of, like, again, the meaning of community, what it's capable of, and especially around the game. Like, it does draw people from so many different backgrounds as well. So it sounds like it's really a vibrant community out in Detroit, and something that any soccer fans around the country could find themselves at home there, whether it's just visiting or considering a move themselves. But I want to come back now to Icarus Cup, what we're here to chat about, because surely there's got to be more opportunities and events to play around Detroit, or even where you all are in the the kind of the Midwest region of the country. So what was it that really drew your attention, said, sure, we're going to all get together, we're going to play our first ever competitive game a few hundred miles across the country in Philadelphia?
That's a great question. I think we were just so excited that finding out what looked like a cool tournament was just adding to that momentum. It was so cool to be able to pick out the jerseys. We look forward to that every year. It was just such a thoughtful tournament. And there are other tournaments all the time that we come across. There's actually not a lot of tournaments in Detroit or in Michigan. So we do actually have to do some traveling usually. But those tournaments didn't have the vibes. It wasn't compelling for us to drive that far. Like, some of us drove to Philly. That was like a 12-hour drive.
Wow, that's commitment. Yeah.
And so just the way that they portrayed themselves, the fact that they had a women non-binary division to start, there were no other women non-binary tournaments that we knew of at the time. And so that was just like calling to us. Like, it felt like we belonged there, and it felt like a welcoming spot.
Yeah.
And they make it social too. They make it fun. The welcome party, we get to meet other teams, and going back the second year and saying, oh, hey, I remember you. We played against you last year. How you doing? How's your team doing? And so it was really fun to meet people from other areas and kind of hear about how the soccer community is in different parts of the country, and kind of compare it and get some ideas. So that's a really fun aspect of the Icarus, the social part.
No, that's awesome. It's amazing to hear that, maybe there's not a ton of opportunities in Detroit. So, CASA, Icarus, you guys are listening. Who knows what the future holds as they're expanding across the different soccer communities around the country. But no, I'd love to hear how you just kind of felt like it was a place that you would be welcomed and you were so excited just to be a part of. When you think of the weekend, the event, some people have described it kind of like this soccer festival. They've got different vendors and food and music. And I love how they have like soccer highlights playing on the big screen, and you have 10 games going on at the time. What are some, if we could make it just real simple, like certain snapshots, like if you were to close your eyes and the 3 images or things that would pop out, the memories from, previous editions of Icarus Cup, like what would be those clear pictures in your head that kind of come out?
We usually play first thing in the morning. So I picture us all walking up to the field, fresh field. We're all fresh and ready to go and just so excited. And there's everybody setting up and all the soccer balls are out. We're just, we're ready to go, ready to play this game.
Hey. I think for me, something that I immediately go back to was like in the middle of the day when we're exhausted and all the vendors and we're like so hungry. I think that one thing we were really happy about having on site is the food vendors. And just like very protein heavy food in the middle of a day of so much soccer. Like what you really want is really hefty food. So I was really happy about having food on site, not having to leave or get something ordered in. It was just being able to step off, have some food, and then take a nap before the next game. So that was also
100%. Really yeah, I took advantage of some of them last year too. Like I said, I was just there as a fan, but like, yeah, it's a lot of energy just being around people. Obviously, you're playing. It was really, really hot. It probably will be again. So I think that's a great piece of it too. And again, it adds a kind of that festival atmosphere for sure.
I think the tent was our savior in between games.
Yeah.
Yes. More tents.
Yes.
It was so hot from Florida.
Yeah. For me, the atmosphere between games is just really fantastic. Having that opportunity to like go and get some food from a food truck and hang out in the pavilion tent area. I had my 1-year-old with me last time, and it felt like just a really chill, easy place to hang out. Like everyone was super friendly. It was great.
Yeah, I think mine is the kits.
Yes.
And different kind of like dress them up differently. So like I dyed my hair blue. Yeah. One of our other team members has like this rainbow scarf that they put on their head, and that was cool. And other teams are kind of just like everyone's got a little spice to their vibe, and I think that's really cool because that's just like soccer culture. Like everyone's kind of got their own style, and to kind of see that come out in the field, like both in skill and in how they choose to dress, is just always a highlight of the tournament for me.
I think I had my hair last year.
Mm-hmm. And there's always a great game going on. So no matter where we are on the it's like, oh, check that. Oh, did you see that goal? So it's so fun to just watch soccer all day. Great soccer.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I think that like the constant energy and movement, there's always games, and then like all the colors, the different styles of all the kits and everything is great. I know that a lot of our teams have mentioned jersey selection day and that process, right? I've heard some different approaches, but how do you all handle that? Because I know these jerseys go fast, like
that's our downfall. Oh my gosh. Don't look at me.
These are coming out. Come first serve. How do you handle that?
We usually get the middle of the barrel choices, but that's because I love my community and I want community input. So normally what I do is I take the voting opens and I'm already 20 minutes late to it. If you're 20 minutes late, best jerseys taken. People I don't know how they know. Like Charlie, if you tell these people when they're getting the email, please tell me too. But
and people are asking in our team, people are like, when are the jerseys? When are the jerseys? When are the jerseys? Because people know it's going to hit, and then we all have to be paying attention to the chat.
Yeah, so I make a bunch of screenshots, and then we have a Discord channel. So I at everybody, and they say, alert, voting is, like, you need to vote ASAP. And then I have them each numbered, people vote on the number, and then I'm like, quick, hurry. And then once I get like 7 votes, I'm like, okay, that's the one, and then I go get it.
And if we have more than one team, which we did last year, that was painful.
Yeah, it's really fun and chaotic. Look at us. We're laughing about it.
Chaotic is the word I was thinking. Yeah.
Better which one they get.
Always turn out fantastic.
Yes, they do.
No, 100%. That is the silver lining here, right? Is that like I talked to so many of the teams and participants. You're just walking around like there's really no misses, So it's just degrees of how much you might align with that certain design, but like you're going to get something good and then be able to rock that for the rest of the year. And then next year, there's always the next chance for the opportunity to really innovate and streamline that Discord chat and make sure everybody's on the ball with it. But I heard, you've been to Philly, but you're also going to be at the Austin event too. Tell us a little bit about, that decision to go with 2 events. You guys are growing so quickly here. So what kind of went into that of saying, hey, we're going to give the Austin a shot as well and get, double the Icarus Cup fund?
So the first year we went, we sent 1 team. We had such a good time that the next year I usually start organizing for Icarus Cup in about January just to kind of get it on people's radars. And I had like 1.5 teams ready to go in January of last year. And I was like, oh, wow, we're going to be sending 2 teams in 2024. That's kind of crazy. So we did. And then everyone had such a good time. We actually ended up playing each other in the finals. And that was kind of crazy to play our friends.
Right?
And we went to PKs. So again, we had such a good time that now this year in January I said, who's ready? And in January, we had 2 teams ready to go. And I was like, oh, well then by the time July comes around, we'll probably have enough for a 3rd team because not everybody can commit to a July tournament in January. So I said, guys, we can't send 3 teams to Philly. Like it was fun to play each other, but we the fun thing about tournaments is being able to play other teams. So I said, we got to do something else. Who's willing to go to Austin? I know there's an Austin one. And people are like, oh, heck, I'd go to Austin. I was like, sweet. So again, I reached out or I looked on the website and I was about to sign us up and there wasn't a women non-binary division in Austin. And I know Kristen from CASA, I know Charlie and have a pretty good relationship with them. So I reached out and I said, what's the likelihood that we could get a women non-binary division? And they were kind of like, well, we don't really think there's a lot of women's soccer in Austin. So not really sure, but if you want to, give it a try, go ahead. Because I have a bunch of different connections across the US with other, women non-binary soccer teams. So I started going crazy in the DMs. I said, hey, I was doing a bunch of research. I wasn't too familiar with Austin, but reached out, found some women's soccer orgs there, reached out again to Brandy, who runs women's soccer in San Diego, and was just trying to get all these people in a group chat. There's actually an LGBTQ soccer group chat that I'm a part of, Women Pluses. With some Denver folks and some other West Coast folks, I think primarily. And I was just reaching out to anybody, said, who knows about this? Who can help me? And Brandy ended up speaking up. She's like, let's get on a call. I found some orgs and brought those to Kristen and Charlie's attention. They said, oh, we didn't know of all these groups. We didn't know about Brandy has a bunch of connections. So we got on a call and they were like, actually, we can make this happen. So not only is there going to be like an open age division, women non-binary division in Austin, there's also going to be that 37 plus and I think 47 plus. So women and non-binary folks, we want to play soccer. We're out there. You just got to find us.
Yes.
So
thank you for advocating for us.
Yeah. The last thing I do want to say, Andrew, is at the beginning of the year, I was in my feelings a little bit and I wrote a women's soccer playbook. We have at this point been to 10 plus tournaments, played in a number of different leagues, and have some very strong opinions about how women's soccer and non-binary soccer should be run and the amount of effort, intention that should be put into those things, because we are really jaded from different experiences that we've been in, the different leagues that say, it's a women's league and it ends up being like just not a good experience, different tournaments that are, have a women's division. It's really a men's tournament, but like here's a women's division and it very much feels that way. So in my women's playbook, I basically outlined the very clear steps that orgs need to take in order to put on good tournaments. And Icarus follows a lot of those. And one of the big ones was basically don't talk about it, be about it. Like put people on this project, hire women and non-binary people, like put in the effort to do the thing. Cause I can be a voice for it, but someone on your end needs to get it done. And I just really
Sure.
appreciate Icarus and Kristen, CASA, and Charlie specifically, because I said, hey, can we do this? And they said, do a little bit of the groundwork, but if it seems feasible, we will get it done. Because they are like an organization. There's things on the line for them, but they put in the effort and they made it happen, and we love it.
We're going to keep supporting them.
Yeah. And a huge praise listening. And that was just like the biggest thing that we do appreciate too.
No, 100%. I love that story for a couple different reasons. The fact that you all were able to tap into a community, and you kind of anticipated one of my questions of what does the women non-binary soccer community look like around the country. So you already kind of tapped into that, and we're able to use that network and reach out and connect to create an opportunity. But then, credit to CASA and the organizers of Icarus Cup, like they keep growing every year and they want to, but again, there are just certain capacity restrictions they have, or, again, it could have been a little risk from an organizational standpoint just to take on something more. And so credit to them for really recognizing that, like, hey, if this is something that the community wants, let's make it happen. So I totally love that story and think it's so key, and it's going to be amazing to see kind of like the legacy of that in the Austin area, right? And see maybe how it can make an impact too locally and establishing more like similar teams and clubs to yourselves through that.
The other super cool thing about these jerseys is when we came back the first year, all of the co-ed people, when we had this jersey, they were like, whoa, what is that? Because all of the jerseys in the co-ed league they're okay. No, I hope they don't hear that and be like, Nikki, how could you say that? But they're all right.
But you have to get your own.
Yeah,
so they're also different.
Yeah, so the teams are responsible for making jerseys. But we came back with this and everybody was like, whoa, what is that? That's so cool. So Women Plus actually ended up like bringing style to the soccer community a little bit. So now it's really funny because I actually have some of them here. Some of the teams actually reached out to Icarus to get their kits designed in the co-ed league. So Babe Squad has an Icarus jersey. Mexican Town has an Icarus jersey. Corktown has an Icarus jersey. Woodbridge is about to get an Icarus jersey.
Okay.
But yeah, so here's the Babe Squad. This was designed by one of the members of the Babe Squad to some degree. And then
amazing. Impacting the local Detroit community on multiple levels, especially aesthetically with the vibes, the fashion. You got to look good. And I think that's something that, again, a lot of us in this wider soccer community, I think that Icarus is such a key part of it, of just helping us to express ourselves in a more like thoughtful, more kind of personal way. And that's awesome that obviously that's being recognized in Detroit too. So maybe it's just a matter of time till we have like an Icarus Cup Detroit or whatever it may be, but really love what Women Plus Soccer is able to do in Detroit area. Nikki, you mentioned kind of that playbook, and I really would recommend to anybody listening, hop on. We're going to put their socials or Instagram and everything in the description. So go take a look at it. I think also for people listening who don't have a community like yours in their area, right? And might see this, might hear this and think, okay, maybe it's up to me. I think that what you're doing in Detroit is a great model, and basically giving kind of like a template of showing other people how it's possible and what some of those steps might be to grow in their community where they feel more comfortable, in their own area.
Yeah, we'd love that. Go out there, get it done, make it happen. It's possible.
100%. Make your team and then come to Icarus Cup.
Yeah, come hang out with us.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been a great call. I'm really excited to actually meet all of you, hopefully in Philadelphia. I'll be at the Philadelphia event. So whoever gets to fly or make that road trip, would love to be able to connect and tell the story again of the event. And hopefully we're coming back for a repeat. How do we feel about our chances?
Pretty good. We've been practicing.
Oh yeah, we've been practicing every Sunday.
Yeah.
So we're ready.
I want to wrap up this podcast episode like we do all of our Because Football podcasts. Let's go reverse order this time. So I think, Monica, we're going to put you on the hot seat here to start, okay? Could you complete the sentence, because football?
Because of football, I have found my daily phone call bestie and where to turn to when I'm in a rough spot, and my physical therapy, which is soccer, and a wonderful group of friends.
Sam, your turn.
Yeah. I have community because football.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna make me cry. Yeah, because of football, I have community and just like a sense of fulfillment.
Because of football, I have joy every week. Get to play this lovely game and with these wonderful people.
Yeah.
I'm going to let this sit a little bit. That was awesome. No, I love getting to hear all of your answers and again, your journeys, but then how you've come together, right? And then continue to grow in community as footballers as well, right? And just as people, it's a really special thing. So I can't wait to meet in person. For everyone listening and watching, thank you so much for being a part of this. Again, reach out, follow, keep track of what Women Plus is doing in Detroit, and obviously follow, keep track of what's happening with Icarus Cup. We hope to see you in Austin, Philly, or Boston this summer. And if not this summer, get a team together, figure it out, make the moves. We'll see you next year. But again, thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Thanks, Andrew.